Hey guys, today I want to talk about one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen in shot calling. I've been working with a lot of open teams as well as a couple working side by side with a couple pro teams, and I've noticed this is a pretty common mistake. And the reason why this mistake's so interesting to me is that it is related to a topic in psychology. And that topic, or at least that term, is called the bystander effect. Now, the bystander effect, if you don't know what it is, it's essentially I'll start with the origin of it. In 1964, there was someone who was shot outside of an apartment complex. And she was shot, she was screaming for help, she called for anyone. She might have been shot or stabbed. I don't remember yeah, it was stabbed. I mean, that's not too, doesn't really matter either way. She was stabbed, and she was screaming for help and screaming for someone to call 911. Everyone in the apartment complex said, essentially, oh, we figured enough people heard, someone else would have called, and we didn't want to, like, flood the 911 lines or anything like that. At the end of the day, not a single person called. They said that in this particular murder, over 100 people witnessed this, and any one of those 100 people could have been the difference in saving her life. Well, this thing called the bystander effect is a phenomenon in psychology that's kind of created purely because people think that if a lot of people hear something, they assume that someone else is going to do something about it, even though no one else does something about it. So why do I say this is a common problem in Heroes of the Storm? Well, oftentimes on maps like Dragonshire, or on maps where you have a lot of camps, I find people oftentimes will call out something like, hey, someone do this camp, or someone grab dragon, and then no one goes. And then if you ask someone, and you say, in this particular game, I asked, someone go do a camp, and then no one went, and I asked Cassia, I said, hey, why didn't you do the camp? And, oh, I thought Raynor was doing it. And then I asked Raynor, I said, why aren't you doing the camp? And Raynor said, oh, I thought Cassia was doing it. So what I want to share with people is that when you are shot calling for your team, pick someone. Because this isn't just something that I'm saying either. If you've ever taken a CPR class, what do they tell you about when they say, tell someone to call 911? They never say, oh, somebody call 911. No, they specifically say in the CPR class, point at a specific person and say, you call 911. This way, instead of saying someone call 911 as you're administering CPR, now some individual there is calling 911 and they know for sure that someone is actually calling 911 rather than everyone standing there waiting for someone else to do something. And that's the same thing that you should be doing in this game. If you are wanting to make any sort of call and you want to just make sure that this gets done immediately and you're the shot caller for your team, specifically say that. Say, Zool, do this camp, or Cassia, do this camp, or Zool and Cassia, go do this camp. You and you stall out the objective. This way, everyone knows their specific role and no one is going to be assuming anything, because we all know what assuming means. And in general, that's really what we want to make sure. We want to make sure that there's no uncertainty. We want to make sure that everyone knows exactly what their job is and there's not going to be any confusion. And if you guys want to learn more about the bystander effect, it's kind of an interesting topic in general, because it's not the only time something like that's actually happened. And there's a TV show out there that's really interesting called What Would You Do? And it shows a lot of crazy scenarios where you would look at this and you'd go, oh, I would totally do something there. And they would put these people in these scenarios and no one would actually do it. No one would actually make a difference in that scenario. I know one of the scenarios was essentially this guy was picking up this girl at a bar, and the bar is filled with like 30 people, and she's like completely wasted, and this guy who she's like kind of resisting, this guy just kind of grabs her and walks her out of the building, and it's like no one stops it, how terrible this is, and everyone's just sitting there. And so I really think if you guys are interested in learning more about the bystander effect, that TV show, What Would You Do, would be something that would be really interesting to check out. Either way, thank you all for watching, and feel free to check out any of my other videos.